Today I'm going over the current 2024 presidential election map right now based on the current polling averages for every state. The data I'm using for this video comes from RealClearPolitics.com using their RCP electoral map and the polling averages from their respective states. After going in already and looking at the map that they have, Real Clear Politics currently starts off at about 222 electoral votes or so for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Donald Trump and J.D. Vance about 219. So what I'm going to do is go through the states they have as toss-up and assign them and just go through and show you what the polling averages have right now. For example, the first state I'm going to start with is the state of New Hampshire. So we're going to go on the map, going to go to New Hampshire. Right now, the Real Clear Politics average has it at 5.7% with a new poll from St. Anselm College and from UNH about earlier in August. That is a 5.7%. That is now enough to be over the lean category and now a likely category. So I will now put New Hampshire into the likely Harris column, likely Democratic column. That's 226 for Harris and Walz, 219 for Trump and Vance. Okay, so that was the state of New Hampshire. Next, we're going to go to the state of Nevada. Nevada and its 6 electoral votes. Extremely close. Every single poll since the Fox News poll back in late August has shown this to be a 1-point race, so it's going to be very close. Currently in the polling average, Kamala Harris is up by 0.6%, so that means I'm going to apply Nevada in 0.6 to the tilt Kamala Harris column, 232 for Harris and Walz to 219 for Trump and Vance. Next, we're going to go to its neighboring state, the state of Arizona, and its 11 electoral votes. Right now in the polling average, after a few polls for Trump towards the end of August showing some good numbers for him, Trump is now up 1.6% in the state of Arizona. So now we're going to assign Arizona to Donald Trump, 1.6%, just enough to put it in the lean column over 1.5%. Harris Walz, 232, Trump Vance, 230. You can really get the feeling how close this election is starting to be at this time, 232 to 230. Now we're going to go to the state of Georgia and its 16 electoral votes. Georgia currently has Donald Trump up 0.3% after actually Quinnipiac's plus 3 poll shifted it. It was Harris was doing very well in a few polls. Then there was a tie poll. Quinnipiac's newest poll actually shifted this in Trump's direction by 0.3%. Extremely close. Will be a very tight battleground state on election day. At the moment, Donald Trump is tilted in the state of Georgia, 246 for Donald Trump, Kamala Harris at 232. And as you can already tell, you're starting to get the makings of a very close presidential election, and the polling averages right now certainly suggest that. Now we're going to go up the eastern part of the United States and go to the state of North Carolina and its 16 electoral votes. North Carolina right now has Donald Trump up by just 0.1%. After there were a poll showing Trump up by 1 point, then there were 2 Democratic polls had Harris up 3, and then 2 Republican polls that had Trump plus 2 and plus 3. It is 0.1%. The polls, it really can't get much closer than that. Donald Trump tilted right now in the state of North Carolina, 262 for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, 232 still for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Now we're going to go to the state of Wisconsin and its 10 electoral votes. One of the most important states back from 2016 and 2020 and will be again in 2024. Wisconsin, Kamala Harris actually has her biggest lead out of all the toss-up states right now in the state of Wisconsin at 1.8%. This comes after a new poll by Marquette that I went over in my video yesterday. So if you haven't watched that yet, I highly encourage you to check that out. And I'll be putting that at the end of this video as well if you're interested in watching that. 1.8% for Kamala Harris. That is actually enough to narrowly put the state of Wisconsin into the lean Kamala Harris column, the first toss-up state to put in the lean column for Harris and Walz. 242 for Harris and Walz, 262 for Trump and Vance. Now we're going to go next door to the state of Michigan, more Democratic historically than Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, but still a toss-up state, no doubt. Michigan right now in the polling average, this is one that's actually gotten a lot closer, where Kamala Harris had about a 2-point lead, over 2-point lead for a long time now, and it's actually getting very closer, now down to 0.7% of a lead. After a few polls came out showing a very close race, a 1-point race, and even Trump plus 1, an insider advantage, this is now down to 0.7% lead for Harris, trending in Trump's direction, but nonetheless, Harris holds a tilt lead in the state of Michigan at this time. So in this scenario, Harris and Walz have 257, Trump and Vance have 262. The entire presidential election comes down to the state of Pennsylvania and its 19 electoral votes. In the past few videos I've done, Pennsylvania has actually been a tie in the polling average, and we haven't been able to assign a winner in the election. This video, I believe, is the first one I've done in a while where that is actually not the case. Because if we go into Pennsylvania, there actually is a leader in the polling average now. Kamala Harris has taken a 0.1% lead in the RCP Pennsylvania polling average after Insider Advantage had Trump up 1, Bloomberg +4, CNN, The Hill Emerson had it at a tie, Trafalgar had it Trump +2, and CBS News had it at a 50-50 tie. Pennsylvania, this race cannot get any closer right now. This is such an incredibly close race. Kamala Harris, just by a inkling, leads in the polling average right now. That would put Kamala Harris at 276 electoral votes, meaning she would win the presidential election by the absolute thinnest of margins we have seen in a very long time. I believe since the 2000 election, it'd be the closest election since 2000, 276 to 262, based on the polling averages today. So what's interesting about this map? Well, for one thing, it definitely feeds into Kamala Harris's best strategy of to win the presidential election, she has to win Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. These three states that Trump won in 2016 and Biden won in 2020. If Harris can win these three states, I think she has a very good shot at winning the election. And conversely, Trump to win the presidential election, and I think him and his campaign know this, they have to win one of the three Rust Belt states at least. They absolutely have to. Because even hypothetically, let's say the polls are wrong in Nevada and Trump is actually even able to win Nevada. That's great. It's still 270 to 268. Harris would still win. So Trump needs to have one of these three Rust Belt states in order to win the election. That's a pretty big takeaway. Arizona being as a lean Trump state right now is very interesting because Kari Lake in the Senate race right now is losing by double-digit points. So it's kind of interesting to see a potential scenario, at least according to the polls, where Trump would win and Lake would lose by a big margin. It's just kind of interesting to see that play out, considering politically they're pretty much aligned on most issues. So that's just kind of interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line from this video is just how close this election really is. And, you know, polls have a very streaky history of, like, not being too accurate with predicting elections. It's really the only tool or mechanism we have to go off of. But as we know with 2016, less so in 2020, but kind of in 2020, polls aren't always super reliable. But I believe in using polls. I think it's a pretty good snapshot. And even if they're inaccurate, I think it does paint at least a semi-good picture of the election. And what I take away from this map, yes, Kamala Harris is leading, but look at how close it is. Every single one of the battleground states is 2 points or less now. That's even different from a few weeks ago. And after the debate, one of the first things I said in my reaction video was, I think this is going to be a toss-up election leading up until Election Day, where we're really not going to know until all the votes are counted just how close this is really going to be, because I think it will be a nail-biter. I think it will be one of those elections that goes into like 3, 4, 5 a.m. the next day that we're not going to know the winner just because of how close this election really is. And this polling average map, I think, certainly suggests that as well. That will do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a like. And if you really liked it, please remember to click the subscribe button. And make sure you turn post notifications on so you always get notified when I post a new video. That way you never miss one. Also, please remember to share this video with your friends and family if you really, really, really like the video. And remember to stay tuned because I'll be posting at least one video every single day leading up until Election Day, so I'd really appreciate it if you keep coming back and watching those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.